bringing you the news and information you need from the people making a difference. This is Comcast Newsmakers.
If you're caught in a vicious cycle of abuse, let me tell you, there is a way out. My next guest wants to help you, the survivor. Hello again, and thanks for joining us. I'm Carla Show-Lee, and you're watching Comcast Newsmakers. In the studio with me this hour is Dr. Nancy Forrest. She's the General Coordinator of Life Beyond Abuse. And today we're talking about that organization. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Forrest, you know, it's interesting because there's always an impetus as to why organizations get started. And this, of course, organization has a history, per se.
Yeah, we do. Many of us who founded this organization were domestic violence workers at the time. We worked in crisis management kinds of places. And what really began the story of Life Beyond Abuse was that a couple of the people who helped us found this organization undertook to furnish a home for a lady who had gotten out of domestic violence and was going to go on and live a new life and hopefully have a much better life than she had had before. And after the furnishing was done, the next weekend she took her children to visitation with her ex-husband, and he killed both her and himself, which brought to our attention that it's not just a matter of getting out of the crisis, it's a matter of surviving afterwards and learning new ways to handle life and breaking the pattern of violence.
Right, and that's primarily what you do. You intervene in that cycle of abuse. How so?
We have a number of programs, each of which is designed to come in and break the pattern so that a new pattern can develop. We have individual counseling for people who really need individual interventions and have really real emotional issues. But we also have a moderated support group which we developed that includes both an educational piece, a peer support piece so that the isolation piece is broken that's so common in domestic abuse, and that also gives red flags, how to handle yourself, what to look for in a new relationship so that you don't repeat the one that you had.
And Newman College was very instrumental in stabilizing you in your organization.
Newman College has been wonderful. They sent us Mary Lou Inzerillo, who is our person who was in charge of getting me here today, and they have a program in pastoral counseling that will support nonprofit organizations in whatever need they may have with their interns, with their practica students. People will come in and give us a hand free of charge to get things like this to happen.
Right, and I wish we can get into each one of these different types of abuse, but can you explain or just share with us the 5 kinds of abuse so people will know? Commonly
we think of abuse as violence, but there's also sexual abuse, there's also emotional abuse, there's neglect where children and indeed women or men have not the needs met just for food, clothing, shelter. And there is also abuse by witness. A child who witnesses her parents be in fights constantly has a 50% chance of growing up to be a victim. A young man who watches, and I suppose a young woman as well, watches their parents in constant fights has a 50% chance of growing up to be an abuser. We want to intervene and change that pattern.
Right, and you're unique in the way that you create your programs based on the patterns that you see.
Yes. Yes. Our visitation program, which is for supervised visitation for non-custodial parents, intervenes in 2 ways. We don't allow the parents to meet, so there is no chance for that violence that started this organization to occur because they never see one another when the children are transferred. And the most common time for violence to occur in a separated relationship is at the time of child visitation transfer. So we have a transfer program that allows people not to meet so that everybody's safe. We have a visitation program that allows children to know their non-custodial parent, even if there is a history of violence or there is a history of drug and alcohol abuse, they still get to grow up and know who their other parent was.
Are we becoming more vocal as women, and sometimes in some cases men, to talk about the abuse?
More so, but much more needs to be done.
Really?
People are still very ashamed. People still want to know, well, why don't you just walk away? What would make you stay in this kind of relationship? As if there were no factors that would impact on that, and it was just sort of a choice you made, like what kind of coffee to have.
Right, of course, yeah. And the problem is, why do people abuse? That's a whole other issue,
That is another whole issue, and not one that we actually deal with.
Right, of course. But you know what? There's life beyond abuse, just like you say, just like the organization. And people can go on the website to find more information.
They certainly can.
Thanks so much, Dr. Forrest.
Thank you.
This hour's Newsmaker has been Dr. Nancy Forrest. She's a General Coordinator of Life Beyond Abuse. I'm Carla Show-Lee. Thanks for watching.